Hey, have you ever secretly wished your department could host a national level speaker, but you know it's just not in the department's budget to do so? Then you're going to want to watch Situational Awareness Matters, episode 262, an interview with Evansville Fire Chief Mike Connelly, as he reveals the secret sauce and tells you how he hosted not one, but four situational awareness programs over a 2-year period, and it cost his department nothing, not a penny, nada, zip, zilch. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com. Hello and welcome to episode 262 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this program is to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. Normally, I share some information about where the Situational Awareness Matters tour has been, but this episode is so good and so full of tips and tricks and hacks for hosting a no-cost program that I don't want to delay it. So let's jump right into our feature segment, my interview with Evansville Fire Chief Mike Connelly. Hey everyone, I'm super excited today to have with me the fire chief from Evansville, Indiana, Mike Connelly. Mike Connelly has served 24 years with the Evansville Fire Department as an EMT, a hazmat technician, an instructor, a company officer, and now the fire chief. Mike was the Greenwater Kiwanis Firefighter of the Year in 2001. Also in 2001, the World Police and Fire Games were hosted in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Mike competed in the Firefighter Stair Climb Challenge and placed 10th among hundreds of competitors from around the world. And while a competitor at the Firefighter Combat Challenge, and based on his performance, Mike earned the distinct honor of being inducted into the Lion's Den. Promoting up through the ranks during his career as a suppression firefighter, Mike was appointed to the position of fire chief in January 2012. Mike was the co-presenter of the National Fire Academy's Company Officer Development Institute, a co-presenter for the National Fire Academy's pilot program, the Chief Officer Leadership Institute, co-presenter for the Kentucky Fire Commission's Fire Chief 101 program, and a presenter at the Indiana Emergency Response Conference, where he did a class called The First Step. In 2018, Mike was awarded the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association Fire Chief of the Year. The Evansville Fire Department was awarded the Indiana Emergency Response Conference's Leadership in Fitness Excellence, LIFE, award in 2014 and 2017, and the BLS Non-Transport Provider of the Year in 2013, 14, and 18. Leadership Evansville, a nonprofit collaboration group in Evansville, presented the Evansville Fire Department with the award in Leader in Government and Public Service in 2018. The Evansville Fire Department, from my observation and having spent some time there with them in training, are, under Mike's leadership, extremely progressive and always in the quest and search of better ways to improve firefighter safety and fitness and wellness. And Mike leads the charge there. I mean, he's got great people working with him there, but his passion for that topic is unprecedented among fire chiefs that I have met. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm kind of bashful, or blushing a little bit with all the accolades. Thank you.
That's all right. Now, I want to swing back to the bio, because in there it said you were inducted into the Lion's Den. What exactly is that, and what's the criteria to be inducted into the Lion's Den?
Okay. The Scott Firefighter Combat Challenge recognizes special achievements for competitors in different age groups and different categories. And that's the Lion's Den. And the reason I was inducted into the Lion's Den was, over the age of 40, I was a competitor at an event and successfully completed the entire event as an individual in under 2 minutes. Wow. So it was pretty grueling accomplishment.
Yeah, I would say so. And just the thought of competing at over the age of 40 is inspiring. I'm not sure I would have been able to complete it, let alone complete it in under 2 minutes. And so good on you for that. Now, in your bio, you also said that you were a co-presenter in the Company Officer Development Institute program. And that really is where you and I kind of got acquainted, first you as a student and then you as a presenter. So let's take a little hike down memory lane and talk about when that was and how it was that we got to know each other.
Okay. Well, obviously the first time I met you, I was a student in the class, and having taken a lot of promotional exams and studying for promotion and trying to seek additional training in order to be a successful leader, I was always looking for the silver bullet, the magic ticket to leadership, specifically to safety of the firefighters on the fire ground. And what really caught my attention was, first, in the class, the subject matter that you were presenting really struck a chord with me. It was something that I was missing in all of the training that I had taken. But one sales pitch that you made in the class about situational awareness made me very keenly aware that I was definitely lacking in situational awareness. And that was the golden ticket. That was a silver bullet that I was looking for, especially as a company officer managing 4 or 5 guys at a time, concerned about their safety in the ultra hazardous atmosphere of a working fire.
Okay, good. And for those who haven't listened to the show, or maybe those who have, it's been a little while, where I've mentioned on the show the Company Officer Development Institute. It's a week-long program that we do that essentially prepares firefighters to become company officers, or helps company officers be more effective in their roles. The goal, if the goal is accomplished, would be to help company officers prevent and solve problems at the company level, to try to keep some of those problems from elevating up to the chief officer's level, and keep giving them the skills and the abilities to effectively manage through some of the challenges they're going to face in the role of a company officer. This week-long program doesn't use any PowerPoint whatsoever for the whole week. It's all adult facilitated learning. And again, Mike was in, I think, actually the very first class that we did of the Company Officer Development Institute, which was in Evansville. And we have since done it over 30 times all over the U.S. But that was the pilot. And then the next year, after I did the pilot program, then what happened, Mike?
Well, you asked if I would help present. And I was like, all right. Very excited about the opportunity.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Not only was I able to learn how to be a good company officer, but that now I'm going to be able to pass this on to the next generation of company officers. And if anybody has been involved in training before, they know when you teach, you learn it twice. So I thought, man, I'm going to learn this stuff really good, and I'm going to go over the PowerPoints, and I'm going to get notes, and I'm going to get all the slides together. I prepared for several months for the time that you were coming to Evansville to present the Company Officer Development Institute. And you called me like 2 days before the class started and said, oh, no PowerPoint. I was like, ah! So
I
wrote
remember
all
that.
the
I
PowerPoint.
remember that conversation vividly. I
Yeah,
remember us. I
yeah.
remember you're
Well,
like,
that's what happened to
what?
my hair. But I tell you what, that was triple the value now. Instead of learning it and teaching it, now presenting it in that manner also just ingrained it in my heart, in my soul.
Yeah. And I find it amazing how much deeper the learning experience is when we're not using PowerPoint, but when we're facilitating discussions among the attendees. Was that your observation as well?
I think you're right on, because when an instructor is presenting to a class and the PowerPoint's up on the screen, the student can, for lack of a better term, fake that they are engaged by looking at the screen and be a million miles away and not engaged in the learning process. So you take that PowerPoint away, you take that blank stare screen away, then you have real interaction, real progress, real growth, real learning.
And I think that one of the other things that is really of value is that the attendees get to talk about real world challenges that they have or are facing in their organization or in their role. And, we kind of peel back the layers as to what is happening, some possible explanations as to why people behave the way they do, and then give them some tangible tools that they can take and apply in dealing with those challenges, because a lot of times they just don't know what to do, and therefore they don't do anything, which oftentimes doesn't make the problem any better, and many times it probably gets worse. But let me take this onward. So Mike became my co-presenter in the Company Officer Development Institute, and then he called me up one day and he said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't do this anymore? And he said, well, I'm going to become the fire chief. And I'm like, what? What? You're going to go from captain to fire chief? How does this happen, Mike?
Well, it starts with relationships and not knowing what I was getting myself into. My wife teases me. She says, you sure are not afraid of a challenge. And I definitely took on a challenge by throwing my name in the hat to be selected as the fire chief by Mayor Lloyd Winnicky.
And what year did that happen?
2012.
Okay, so you're essentially 7 years into the fire chief's role. We're not really here to dissect your tenure in the fire chief's role, but it's been really educational for you to go from that forward sitting company officer into the role of the leader of the organization. I think you've been exposed to a lot of challenges, and you get to see a whole lot of different angles of the moving parts of an organization, politics, agendas. And again, don't go into the detail, but it's been educational, hasn't it?
It has. One of the analogies that I use to make sure that people understand that I still love the fire service and I love doing my job is the word picture is a football player being plucked off of the field and inserted into the head coach's position. I still have a passion for the game, just a different role.
Yeah.
And navigating the politics, especially the first time around, definitely a lot of hard knocks, a lot of learning.
Yeah. Well, you've done an amazing job, and I know
Thank
that
you.
because you're welcome. I have stayed relatively close to the department in coming back and doing several more company officer development institutes and some situational awareness programs, and that kind of segues us around to the conversation that we're here to discuss today. We were talking about the possibility of doing some situational awareness training in the Evansville area, and the discussion was, well, Rich, I'm not sure that I've got the budget that can support a 1 day or 2 day program. So we had some conversations about some alternatives about how to do this, and we talked about reaching out to other organizations, reaching out to sponsors. So I'm going to pass the mic to you and let you talk me through first what was the inspiration for you wanting to have this program, the Situation Awareness Program, hosted in Evansville. How did you envision it? And then when you come along the hurdle of the finances, what was your strategy or motivation about how to maneuver through that instead of just a flat out, no, we can't do this? You're about as can do as anybody that I have ever met. And you got this can do, will do disposition and made it happen in a big way, which is why I wanted to have you on the show to talk about that. So, why did you want the program to start with, and then how'd you work through this hurdle?
Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the little sales pitch that you gave regarding situational awareness in the midst of the Company Officer Development Institute was really the bait that I bid on to get the program in Evansville. And you're right, when very short-sighted, very narrow-focused as a fire chief, if I looked at the resources I had to be able to bring your program to Evansville, I would have said the same thing. And I did the first couple of years because I was overwhelmed with learning all of the other things that I had to do as fire chief. Bureaucracy, budgets, approvals, accountability to boards. So the can-do attitude then was revived because I'll have to rewind a little bit to a previous relationship when I met Lloyd Winnicky back when he was the vice president of marketing at Fifth Third Bank. And it all comes about because of relationships, just like me being on your show today is because of a relationship. I had established a relationship with Lloyd Winnicky then because I was seeking sponsorship for the Firefighter Combat Challenge event to come to Evansville. So I had attempted many times before to get in the doors of corporate sponsors, but only had success when I finally met a guy who came to the fire station in 2002, September 11th, 2002. He's a marketing firm in Evansville called Axiom Marketing and Advertising. Came to Evansville with his granddaughter and spent some time thanking the firefighters, bringing a meal. Granddaughter's checking out the truck. Where the whole group of firefighters is mingling with the adults and the children. And after 30 minutes, a couple people leave. 45 minutes, another couple people leave. By the end of it, me and the granddaughter are still going over the truck, and she is asking question after question after question. And I would answer every question that was asked. And Randy Lentz, the owner of Axiom, was very appreciative of that. And that struck up a relationship between the two of us right then and there. I had been trying to get corporate sponsorships, could not get my foot in the door. Asked Randy if he knew any corporate sponsors. Well, he does advertising. He knows lots of corporate. He got my foot in the door of all of these corporate businesses, and that's how I got the big money to bring sponsorships for the Combat Challenge. So after a couple of years of being fire chief and the fog of war starts to subside, and I'm thinking, how are we going to bring this event to Evansville, the Situational Matters class to Evansville? I thought, hey, I was able to get big money through the Firefighter Combat Challenge. Let's try the same thing for Situational Awareness Matters. The same type of sponsorship that we got for the Combat Challenge is the sponsorship that we got with Situational Awareness Matters. And I went straight to the top. Vectran Energy Delivery. We partner with them in response to utility emergencies. So it stands to reason they would have an interest in having Situational Awareness Matters come to Evansville. Old National Bank, they're a great community partner. But as fate would have it, the day that I went to ask them for corporate sponsorship, they had just been robbed. The downtown branch had just been robbed 2 days prior. And when I spoke about what it means to have situational awareness, the marketing lady that I was talking to, Sarah Miller, said to me, her tellers recognized in hindsight what they should have noticed beforehand. The Situational Awareness Matters message.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Mission Barbecue, they're a great community partner. If anybody has Mission Barbecue in their area, hit them up. They, I have trouble paying for a meal when I go into Mission Barbecue. It's not unethical. It's for all firefighters and all police. The local Firefighters Credit Union, they're a great sponsor. They have a vested interest. Deaconess Hospital provides our annual medical evaluations for the entire fire department. They're a great community sponsor. And then obviously vendors that any fire department deals with, you can hit them up for money because they love your business. So I hit up Global Emergency Products, Hoosier Fire, Siegel's Uniforms. And then the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association was able to assist in receiving the donations from these corporate sponsors. Since I didn't want the money to go through the department and get lost in the general fund black hole, I was able to request the funds be sent to the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association. They're a nonprofit organization. So they could receive it and then disperse it as the bills came in to pay for the class. Public Safety Medical, another great health partner for the fire service here in Indiana. They were a big sponsor. And then as far as picking a location, if I'm going to raise all this money and run the event outside of the department and then also invite area departments to participate, I wanted to have a large enough classroom to hold 100 people. And that's when I reached out to the local university, University of Southern Indiana, and they gave me the room for free. I had to pay $6 a piece for tables to be moved in and $12 for a trash can. So this was a great collaboration of effort where just because it's not fire related, just because it's not within your domain, doesn't mean that people don't want to help. And that's the big message here is you have to be creative, ingenuitive to go out and discover those relationships that you might not ever consider. Would I consider going to Old National Bank for a book sponsorship for a fire safety education class? No. But thinking outside the box and the fate of having that robbery 2 days before, they won't. Sarah Miller joked, but I think she was half serious. She wants to have the Situational Awareness Matters class for her tellers.
Yeah.
But we got to circle back to that one.
Yeah. Now, Old National, I think it was Old National Bank, ended up being the book sponsor. Do I remember that right?
So Vectran was the title sponsor.
Right.
And they were given the opportunity to speak to the class each day before you started your program. And they presented a great safety message right in line with the Situational Awareness Matters message. So that, I mean, that one just made sense.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was a solid takeaway because he had some video of some incidents, and he was talking. He did a really good job of making the connection between utility safety and the situational awareness of both the veteran workers and first responders, and showed that incident. I think it was it in Lafayette where those houses blew
yeah,
up
3
as a
houses
result.
exploded.
Yeah, as a result of a gas leak, the multiple house explosions, and they had video of it, and that was really powerful, kind of on the front end. And here's why all this is important. And then it got handed off, and it was a great segue. But as the title sponsor, he got I don't remember exactly what it was, somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes on the front end to promote veteran, but to do it in a way that was more educational than promotional.
It fit right into the message.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I will say also about seeking sponsorship, there's a lot of corporate money out there that they would just want to be a good community partner, and they really don't want anything in return. But what we offered in this package was, if they sponsored at a certain level, then they were able to set up a table and display their wares, have some giveaways, solicit business. So that's one hand washing the other. What you get in exchange for sponsorship is this menu item of return.
Yeah, and then some of those table sponsors had some giveaway stuff too. I remember pens and notepads and keychains and little lights on chains, and the kind of trinketry that people will take and then have, and it'll remind them of that sponsor that was there to support them, which was that was just a kind of a classy thing for you to do, is to give those sponsors a way to not just step up and give money, but also to have a physical presence at the event. And they didn't pay extra for their table. It was part of their sponsorship to have that table space.
The other part of it is the sponsorship then brings down the cost of the individual who's going to register for the class. And I know in a lot of cases, especially around our area where there's a lot of volunteer fire departments, there's not a lot of disposable income in the department budget to pay for training. So if we can bring that cost down by sponsorship, that increases the student participation.
Right. Now, when you went looking for sponsors, you had a kind of like a menu that says you can be this level of sponsor, the title sponsor. You can be, and I don't remember if you color coded it, so I'm just going to kind of throw a concept out there. You could be a gold sponsor, and for that you get these perks, and you can be a silver sponsor, and for this amount of money you get these, and you can be a bronze sponsor. And what I think you went looking for was a title sponsor, a book sponsor, a meal sponsor, a venue sponsor, and you ended up successfully getting a title sponsor, a book sponsor, a meal sponsor, and of course the University of Southern Indiana became the venue sponsor by essentially giving you the venue for free, which is an in-kind financial contribution toward the event, because they had staff there, they had IT people available, they had security on site, so to be able to support us, they had to essentially make a financial commitment to the program. And so you were successful in getting sponsors in all of these areas, and then you had maybe some bronze sponsors who did either in-kind contributions, or they actually then became financial contributors. So let's talk about Mission Barbecue, because they stepped up in a big way, and I want to make sure we give them a special call out for what they did.
That's right. They provided lunch at essentially half what they would normally charge for a catering fee, and to keep the cost of the program down, the Evansville Firefighters Credit Union is the one who paid for the lunch. So I had one sponsor paying another sponsor. So it was clean, hands off. But they came out, they provided more than enough food. There was plenty of food, and it's delicious. I'm telling you, if you've never gone to Mission Barbecue, it's probably the best barbecue I've ever had. And I've had a lot of barbecue. I do my own, but
yeah.
And theirs is pretty good. I like to brag about my own barbecue. And Mission Barbecue is a great community partner. They're friends of the fire service, friends of the police service, military. If you go to their restaurant any day around 12 o'clock noon, when the clock strikes 12, everybody stops and they play the Star Spangled Banner. Everybody stands up and holds their hand over their heart. It's a really spine-tingling experience.
Wow. I have been to Mission Barbecue. In fact, I seek them out as I travel because I like their barbecue. It's just good. But I've never been there at noon to see that. So
every day they're open at noon.
Yeah.
Be ready.
I think I've been, usually my classes go to almost noon, so I've probably been getting there around 12:15. But as I travel about, I'm going to try to make it a point to not only see that, but I might also try to capture it on video and share it on an upcoming podcast and give them some positive exposure there. Now, what did the Indiana Fire Chiefs? Not only did they handle the financial transactions for you, but they also then, if I remember right, they offered their members, if you're a member of the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association, you got a discount to enroll in the program. There was some special discount code for them.
That's right. They also helped advertise, and that was another aspect of having all of these community partners involved. Is they were pushing that on their websites and their Facebook pages, and so that's how the word got out. But the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association advertised it on their state newsletter that goes out to all the Indiana fire chiefs. They were very helpful in making all that happen.
Nice. And when you went to these sponsors and asked them to step up, for those out there who might be watching the show that wouldn't necessarily know how to have that conversation, how did you approach it? Did you have a handout of the different sponsor levels, or did you go to them seeking a specific level or a specific financial amount? Did any of them say, well, how much money do you need, Mike, or how much do you want? Or did you just leave it for them to decide how much they could contribute? And kind of talk us through what that conversation was like. Because I guess for some, it could be a little awkward to go and knock on somebody's door and say, hey, we're going to be doing something and we'd like you to, give us some money to do it. So what did that look like there?
When I go in to meet with a potential sponsor, I try to have all of the anticipated questions answered in my presentation so that by the end, I stop talking and wait for them to say, yes, I'll write you the check. So first, why this class? And me being the fire chief and any firefighter passionate about the fire service and making sure everybody goes home at the end of their shift can make the sale on why situational awareness matters. Sharing some of my experience on the scene of an incident where my fear of having a firefighter lose his life or get injured, and why it is so important that we have situational awareness matters as part of our toolbox to keep us safe on scene. I just lay it out, just share a couple of stories. This is why it's important. This is how we can address that problem. And this is a solution that will help improve firefighter safety and reduce the risk of line of duty death. So with that tone set, Everybody's all concerned about their safety. Then I say, okay, it's going to cost this much to bring the class. And I have these different categories. And depending on the sponsor, I may already have in mind what target I'm going to hit them with. For example, if I go to veteran, I'm going to them for title sponsorship. If I'm going to Global Emergency Products, who distributes our fire apparatus that we purchase, it's going to be somewhere between the gold and the bronze sponsorship level. If it's someplace like Southern Indiana, University of Southern Indiana, all I'm asking from them is for a room. So make the pitch, why it is it's important. This is how much it costs. This is how you can help make it happen. And then shut up.
And let me back up just a moment. Did you just go knock on a door, or did you call to make an appointment to talk to somebody? How did you know who to approach? Kind of talk us through that.
Okay. The luxury that I had in a lot of these sponsors is from previous relationships from back in 2004 when I was raising money for the Combat Challenge. But the other relationships that I was basically searching for, some of it was through networking, some of it was through a vendor list of who we deal with as fire department, who we purchase from, and some of it was just word of mouth. Make the phone call, set an appointment, keep the appointment, and keep your time limited to the time you asked for. As far as how to select who to ask, you know, quite frankly, I didn't have too many people say no. Because, like I say, you get your foot in the door through relationships and networking, and then you present this message of the need for situational awareness. I'll tell a funny story about Lloyd Winnicky when he was working as the vice president of Fifth Third Bank marketing, and I was raising money for the Firefighter Combat Challenge. And this is very similar to the Situational Awareness Matters message, so hang on. We're on the 12th floor of the bank building. This is the second year I've come back to him for soliciting sponsorship for the Combat Challenge. And I start in my presentation, and this is how it benefits firefighter fitness, and it's a positive incentive. And he goes, Mike, stop. I'm going to write you the check. He says, because when I'm sitting on the 12th floor of this bank building, and it starts falling down around my ears, I want your happy butt up here to get me. He said, I'm all about firefighter fitness. So when you take that aspect of firefighter fitness and put it in the same chapter as situational awareness, it's the same message. So, like I say, there weren't too many times when people said no, and he was ready to write the check just like that.
And so without revealing the actual numbers, I mean, I don't want you to reveal any of the numbers of any of your individual sponsors gave, but collectively, how would you say you did? Did you do good? Struggle to meet the mark? Fall a little short? Where'd you end up on this?
For each year, I was able to meet the mark. The amount that it cost to bring the program to town, travel expenses, book, paying for the book, paying for lunch. When you add all that together, the sponsorship I asked for met that need.
And you did this twice.
Twice. So essentially, the title sponsor is almost half of the cost of the event, and then it's proportionately split down to smaller levels.
And so we come to town. We did 2 days, and then you said let's. In fact, as I remember it, you actually did so good the first year. We had a little bit of money left over, And
Correct.
I remember saying, what do you want to do with this money that we didn't spend? Do you want it to go to a charity, or how do you want to handle this? And you said, no, just hold it in an escrow, and we'll swing at this and do it again next year. So we just kind of set that money aside. So come next year, you already had some seed money from what was left over from the previous year to kind of grease the wheels to do a 2-day event the following year. So actually the first year you did so well, you didn't even spend it all. So we just kind of held it and used it for the seed money for the second year. Do I remember that right?
That's correct. I quit asking for sponsorship because we had met our financial need already.
That's not a bad problem to have.
Not a bad problem.
What advice would you give to someone who, say they contact me, hey, Rich, we really want to have this program, and I send them a proposal, and then they come back and say, yep, sorry, can't afford it, and they just want to close the door and give up. And I can understand how budgets don't always have the capacity to provide really what my program is a non-required fire training program. It's not required by anybody's criteria, EMS or fire or certification. It's important, but it's not a core mandated program, and a lot of departments wouldn't have the budget for this. I don't know, I guess you maybe call it bonus training. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to those that maybe want to do something, but they know they just don't have the means?
Well, I know when you ask for sponsorships, in a lot of cases, the fiscal year for the cycle of approvals and distribution of funds doesn't always coincide with January 1, December 31. So you have to know when it is to ask for money. And then you also then have to know when it is the money will be dispersed. So if you're talking about bringing Rich Gasaway's Situational Matters class to Evansville in, say, May of 2019, you may be behind the 8 ball trying to raise money in that short of time. But if you look at May 2020, and you get on the calendar to make a request to these big corporate sponsors in their distribution cycle of funds, then you're going to have a greater chance of success. The other thing is you have a great flexibility in the offer of your program to scale it to whatever you need. 5 days, 3 days, 1 day, half a day. So there's menu items that are available through your discretion to determine what the total cost would be.
Right. And then we maybe I glossed over quick. One other financial component to this was for the attendees, other than those from Evansville Fire, for the attendees, this program wasn't free. They paid a fee to come to this, right? In addition to all the sponsorship, you didn't just open it up and say, hey, everybody, come, I got a free program here.
Yeah, and what I've found from other training classes we've hosted here in Evansville, if the class is absolutely free, there's no skin in the game, the guy had too many beers last night and he doesn't feel like getting up to go to class on Saturday morning, then he'll blow it off. But if he has $50 down on the table, $75 down on the table, he'll show up because he wants to get his money's worth. So there's a balance there between free and having some skin in the game.
So as much as your heart might be in the right place to say, hey, I want as many people to come to this as possible, and then your heart is saying, make it free because that will eliminate the any financial hurdles that any individual or department that just wants to send 1 or 2 to come, that'll remove that hurdle. Your experience aligns with my experience in that the worst attended programs of mine are the free programs, because as you say, no one has skin in the game. They wake up on that Saturday morning and the sun's shining and they'd rather go fishing or ride their motorcycle or mow their lawn or do something else, because there's no commitment, nothing that's bound them financially into coming. So while you might not have to charge them, $150 for the program, charging them something to create the sense of an obligation to come to the program is a pretty important concept in all this. In other words, don't raise your money and then tell everybody free, because you're going to end up with a bad turnout. Is that kind of the takeaway there?
That's right. And then they get something for their money. They get lunch. They get a book. They get a full day's training, all for $50.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
Right. Yeah. So really, that's right. I couldn't remember exactly what you charged, but it was like $50. You get a class, you get a lunch, and you get a book. And the book value is $40. So you figure if you had a $10 lunch, your $50 is really just covering lunch and a book. And essentially, the class, for all intents and purposes, is free. If you think that you're buying the book and the lunch, then you're coming to class and getting a full day of training at no cost.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a kind of a nice design. I recommend that for hosts. The book is a nice takeaway that somebody can have to refer to later. A lot of them have the books signed, and I'll sign books all day, all night long when the class is done, just to say thank you for somebody that would come to the program. Now, how did you, I know the answer to this, but for the benefit of those watching the show, how did you handle the registrations? How did somebody sign up and pay for this class? Was this done through Evansville Fire or through the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association? How was that handled?
What we did as part of the setup of the package was there was a link that you had provided for me to distribute for those to sign up on their own. And that was really handy, because then there was no effort on my part to get people to sign up. I had to wag my finger at some people on the Evansville Fire Department to make sure that they went. But as far as other departments signing up, I think it was easier for them. It's easier for me. That way, ahead of time how many people are coming, and I don't have to follow up on my end. It was a really clean process.
Yeah.
There was a small for it, but that was worth it.
So let me sum up what that means is that I have the ability to set up a marketing website for the event that tells them the event location, the description, has all the sponsors listed, the locations, start and end times, lunch is provided, you're getting a book, all of this on the marketing website. And then if they want to register, they just click through, register, pay online with a credit card, or they can check that they can check a box that says they'll bring a department check to the program and pay on site with a department check, so that they have a means by which to have the department fund it. And that relieves the host, then you, of, and if they have any phone calls, our office is the point of contact that they call with their questions, and not inundating you with the little minutia questions about, is the lunch going to be gluten-free? And, all these things that people want to know. We handled all that, and it makes it transparent for you, because all you got to do is send that link out, and then people contact us to register. And then Carol from my office keeps you, the host, updated on how many registrations you have coming in, and that's what allows you to then shake the trees or shake the bushes a little bit if you think the registrations aren't coming in at the right pace, to kind of let others know, hey, this is coming up, here's the link again, get registered. So the distribution of the marketing link is for you and the Indiana Chiefs, but the creation of the marketing website, the registration form, the payment method, and everything was on this instance was handled by us. It doesn't have to be, an organization can handle that themselves, but that service is available. And in some jurisdictions, that can be handy because if I don't know how it is in Indiana, so I'm going to say this in generic terms, but in some states, if you handle the registrations, whatever somebody pays to register would come back to the general fund of the municipality and not necessarily back to the fire department's budget. So the fire department pays for the program, but then all the money generated then just goes into the general fund. Where if we do it this way, people who register, that revenue, everyone who registers is actually reducing the amount of the cost to the host agency by every registration. And in this case, those registrations and the sponsorships more than adequately covered the entire cost of the program the first year, which was truly amazing. It really was. But that's a convenience feature, so to speak.
Very convenient.
Yeah. What else might you would want a potential program host to know that maybe we haven't covered in the questions that I've asked of you?
Don't give up. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. I know that you paid me a compliment earlier about being a get her done kind of guy, but all firefighters are that way. So I'm surprised that others haven't thought of this sooner. So very honored to be on your podcast, but at the same time, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. I think some of it, Mike, is they just feel timid about reaching out and asking someone to help them, whether I don't know if it's embarrassed, don't know how, afraid they're going to hear a no. And that's never been your disposition. I've never seen you be afraid of stepping up and trying something, and maybe that's kind of unique to your personality. But for those who might be a little more timid, I hope that this discussion will give you some inspiration to perhaps realize that there are a lot of companies out there that are interested in stepping up and helping the fire department fund great training, be it mine or someone else's. And if you ask and you go in prepared, as Mike did, and make the strong connection to how it benefits the community, how it benefits the safety of firefighters, that organizations are often willing and enthusiastic about stepping up. And I'm guessing that these organizations probably have some budget for this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When you went to the sponsor, they didn't say, well, geez, I don't know. No one's ever come and asked us to support anything before. We're going to have to figure out how to pay for that. They've got funds for this kind of stuff, right?
That's right. And that's why it's so important to know the timing of their budget cycle, because if for 6 months they take requests, then you want to be first in line to make the request so that when they start dispersing funds, you're at the top of the list. Yeah, that's all part of the research you need to do for the sponsors.
Now, Mike, I've never asked you this. Were any of your sponsors a foundation that was, because a lot of companies have a side foundation that they channel money to for charitable reasons, for community support reasons. Were any of your sponsors a foundation that you had, say Old National Bank might have a community foundation that you had to submit a request to the foundation for? Were any of them in that realm?
Old National Bank was from a foundation.
Okay, so Old National Bank has a side foundation, and then did you have to complete an application, or was it as simple as just talking to someone?
The easy part was talking to someone. They gave me the thumbs up to make the application, and they assured me that the application would be approved. So then you go to the link, you go to the website, you register, you create a username and a password, fill out the narrative, describe what the benefit to the community is, how much you're asking for, the whole 9 yards, the total budget. Excuse me. You have to have everything that you are presenting as a sponsor when you go into the meeting to talk face-to-face with the decision maker. It's the same information you'll have to submit probably electronically through their official website, through the foundation application process.
And the foundation did approve it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that was really the funny thing. I had the meetings with these people face to face, expecting, like I did with Lloyd Winnicky back in 2004, they'd just write the check. Oh, no. Get on the computer and fill out the application, and then it'll be approved. And that took probably 6 months to get through that entire process from the time it was submitted to the time we received the check.
So I want to make sure I got it. You walked in, going to do a presentation, and you think you're going to walk out check in hand.
Yeah.
Did that happen for any of them?
For the uniforms, Siegel uniforms, they said, well, don't leave. Let me write the check first.
Oh, okay. So
that was a relatively small amount.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for taking some time to come in on your day off and to have a discussion with me on how to go about funding training, be it mine or someone else that you might want to bring in. I hope this has been valuable to the viewer to get some ideas, tips, inspiration from what Mike Connelly has done now 2 times in Evansville, and bringing these programs in. Now, I want one last thing, Mike, for either of these programs, and I don't know, but for either of these programs, did the city of Evansville have to contribute anything out of the fire department's budget for either of those?
No, nothing.
Nice. I couldn't remember if they stepped up and did something, but they didn't need to. It was all covered by contributions and sponsorships. Amazing, good stuff. Mike, thanks for coming in and being with me and being part of the show today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Fire Chief Mike Connelly, for sharing your tips and tricks and hacks for hosting a no-cost program. Does it require some effort? Of course. But your members will thank you for it when it's done. I always tell program hosts with limited budgets, when the will is strong, a way can be found. Let me know how I can help you in your efforts to host a no-cost event. Before I close this episode out, I'd like to share a letter I received from an industrial client following situational awareness consulting and training that I did for over 700 of their employees. Have you ever wondered why you reacted the way you did during a moment of crisis? Why you made a decision that afterwards you reflected on and realized that you got away with one and the outcome could have been much worse? I was the training manager for a well-known oil sands company for 9 years and a 38-year career in process operating. A couple of years ago, we realized the experience level of the majority of our process operating personnel was dropping due to a rash of retirements, and the newer replacement employees did not have training nor the benefit of been there, done that, to help them make correct decisions in emergency situations, something that we call periods of high vulnerability. We decided our employees would benefit from training in human factors and situational awareness to help them improve decision-making under stress. We decided to augment the situational awareness training with a review of our company's management systems, as well as reviewing lessons learned from our company's incidents and other major industrial incidents. To help us with situational awareness training, we enlisted the help of Dr. Rich Gassaway. Dr. Gassaway is an ex-firefighter who then went back to school and got a doctorate in what he calls BS. But it's not BS, it's brain science. This is all about how the brain works and how it reacts differently during different stages and periods of high vulnerability, how to recognize the changes and to mitigate the impacts. Dr. Gassaway is an amazing presenter with the ability to captivate his audience, especially with this topic that is not well understood. He has the ability to simplify to all levels of his audience. We put 700 process operators and leaders through this training course with a resounding excellent review. We also had Dr. Gassaway on our site for a week prior to the training, he had an opportunity to talk to a lot of the employees and get an idea how the company's culture to give him a direction for his presentation. He also gave us a list of suggestions to improve periods of high vulnerability response as a result of those employee interactions. We were so impressed with the training that we filmed this presentation so that we could use it to train future employees. I recommend Dr. Gasway to any organization where employees deal with emergency situations. I wish I would have had this type of training 38 years ago in the early stages of my career. Signed, Dawson Windsor. Thank you, Dawson, so much for that testimonial letter. I really, really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me, so thank you for that. Well, that's it. Episode 262 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you again to my guest, Fire Chief Mike Connelly, for revealing the secret sauce on how to host a no-cost program. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to our associate sponsor, Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, organizations, and associations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted a live stream training program where I come to your organization live via the internet to train your members. Thank you to the more than 3,000 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. The feedback I received from Academy graduates have been just amazing and humbling, and I thank you for that. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SAMatters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.